what was it like covering the trial and just being out there and everything being normal and having it be a normal day and then being hauled off to prison without warning?
So my daughter, for the first time, she's 11, she'd been on a school trip for 5 days, which is the longest she's been away. And that day, this was the most cutting thing for me out of it, I was meant to be picking her up at 7 o'clock. So I'd gone up to Leeds. I thought I'll make out there, do this, get back. And then I'm like, oh my God. That's what the first thing I thought when I got taken to jail. I was thinking, like, I'm now sitting in prison. And I was thinking about, I'm going to be protecting my daughter. And then I rang my wife. And just said, oh, man, what? I just said, have you had enough of this yet? But, and my car, the mad thing was, my car was still outside court because I'd gone to work. Essentially, I'd gone to work. My car's still outside court. I'm sat in prison, sitting there thinking, I've just got 13 months in prison for this. And it was, it's one like, once, I don't know, you're in a situation, you have to deal with it, you know. Right. But yeah, it wasn't, more so it was, it's the not knowing, it's the not knowing and, not knowing what can happen. I mean, for me, you see normal prison, for me, British prisons are taken over by radical Islamic gangs. Many prisons are like ISIS training camps. That's basically what they are. They're churning out 800 a year, I believe, from the MI5 or whatever. 800 radical Muslims come out a year. So for me, when I landed in prison, I'm genuinely thinking, am I coming out of here? And then when they moved me from the lowest Muslim population prison, so I was fine in Hull, I was fine. Right. And then they come and move me, they wouldn't tell me where I'm going until I get on, then I get on the way there. Where am I going? They said Onley. In my head I'm thinking, Onley? That's a London catchment prison, which means the demographics. So I knew straight away, it's actually got the biggest Muslim population of any CCAP prison in Britain. So the minute that happened then I'm thinking, well, this isn't a mistake. There's a massive, massive movement outside of prison. There's Lord Pearson speaking in the House of Lords about my safety and my safety in prison. And now they've made a decision to move me to the most vulnerable position I could be in. So at that point, yeah, it's terrifying. Because then I'm thinking, I'm not coming out of it. They're going to let them have a shot, because otherwise, why would they do it? There can be no logical reason why they do it. So yeah.
Did you expect to be in there as long as you were? Did you think that you would get bailed out, or that something would happen where you would get released sooner?
No. Once I was in there, So I was saying to my wife, I'm out. I'm the 13th of December would have been my release date. So that's what I said to my wife. Then I'm not getting out before this. So even down to when it went to the Court of Appeal, which again, when you think about this, it took them 3 hours to take me off the streets and convict me and imprison me. It took me 2 months to get back before a judge to prove the unlawful actions in court. It took me 2 months to get before a judge. And then even when I got before the judge, and the judge heard everything they'd done was wrong, so he knew it was all illegal, he didn't let me go. He sent me back to prison for solitary confinement for another 2 weeks, to the very last date that he could possibly do, where they let me out. So another 2 weeks. He heard what was wrong. He knew it was wrong. He should have let me out there and then. But he sent me back to prison, and even then, so I'm laying there. I know he sent me back to prison, so I thought, there's no way he's going to let me out. That's how I'm thinking. And I was laying in my cell, and then boom, 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 someone knocked saying, you're going home, you're going home. I was like, go away. And they said, no, you've got bail. And in my head, I was thinking, I've not even applied for bail. Because I wasn't asking for bail. I was asking to overturn the conviction.
Right.
So I thought he was wrong until then, and then I realised he's right. And at that point, I was jumping around.
Were you in solitary the whole time, or were you ever with the general population?
So for the first 2 weeks in HMP Hull, for the first 2 days I was with the general population, and then they come and took me and put me on a hospital wing, where there were no Muslims, but I was isolated from all the other prisoners. So I would be taken out of my cell to socialise and talk with the prison officers and staff for about 3 hours a day. They took me out in a garden, so I'd sit in the garden for about an hour a day when they're having their fags, and I'd have discussion with them. So I had a bit of normality. Now my worrying thing was, in 2012, I spent 5 months on solitary confinement, and I come out a completely different person than when I went in. And I never spoke about that publicly. I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder because it's embarrassing.
It's considered torture after 15 days by the UN, I believe.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I spent, and to try and, I never spoke about it publicly because people get post-traumatic stress disorder from war. I'm not going to compare sitting in a room to what men get from war. So it was an embarrassing thing, and I never spoke about it, but it did change. I struggled. I struggled to interact with my family. I struggled to reconnect with my family. I struggled with lots of things at that time. And so when I was in prison, and when they moved me from, so when I was in Hull, I thought, okay, this is all right. I'm out of my cell. I'm talking to people. So I said to my wife, my family come and visit me. I said, I'm fine, yeah. I'll be out of here in 6 months.
Right.
I can do this. Like, it's all right. And then when they took me to Hull, when they took me to Onley, they used my safety. They put me in the most Muslims of any prison. And then they said, to keep you safe, you're not allowed out of your cell. So then they put me on solitary confinement the entire time for 2 months, but it would have been for 6 months if I hadn't got the appeal. And obviously, in my head, consciously, I'm thinking, oh, I know the struggle I had last time. So I'm worried then, panicking then, because I know I need to get out of the cell.
Right.
Because I know So I come out of prison after 2 months of solitary. I'd lost 30 pounds, 40 pounds, 3 stone, and I wasn't in a great place.
Sorry that happened.
No.
That's horrible. So earlier tonight you were speaking and you talked about how you prepared your children for this. Could you tell me again just a little bit about that? Because I was almost going to cry when you were talking about it. I was having a really hard time. And it's a really powerful anecdote, I think.
So I said to my son struggled. When I went to jail, I thought after a week or something that he'd get used to it. But he cried every day. Every day. I'd ring my wife, he's been crying at school again, taken out of class. He took it so bad. My daughters were okay. He just took it so bad. So I wasn't telling him about court the last time I went. And the day before, he saw something on Instagram. So he broke down again. And he broke down because he thought I'm going away again. And I wasn't going to tell them because I thought if I don't want to cause them all that heartache. And then, so then I sat him down most recently, and he hasn't cried tonight. I've just been away for the weekend, but I sat him down and said, because I've got a daughter who's 11. I said, you see...
How old is he?
He's 9, and my youngest is 7, another daughter. I said, you see your sister? I said, there's young girls her age who are being taken away from their families by gangs of men. And those men are doing some horrific things, and they're putting those girls through so much pain. Those girls will never sleep. So I went through it all with him, and I said, now, what Daddy was talking about at court, when they sent me to prison, it brought it to the world's attention. I said, now, by bringing it to the world's attention, a parent or someone will rise up and realise their daughter may be a victim, and it may do something to stop just one girl. I said, now, so as Daddy goes back to court, because I was offered go in and plead guilty and apologise, and you'll come home. Yeah. So I'm faced with do that or do what I know is right. Yeah. So then I said to my son, what should I do? If I go in and do this, I probably could go back to prison something. But should I do that? If it saved one girl, look at your sister. If it took one girl and it took her and saved her from years, a life of pain, what would you want your dad to do in that situation? And I've done this before with a holiday, and I know my son. So he said, yeah, you should do that.
It's an amazing child.
Yeah. Well, I said to them on a holiday, I raised enough money. I sat my 3 kids down and said, there's a brother and sister, there's these 3 children your age. I said, I've saved enough money to go to Florida. I said, but then I explained about the illness one of the girls has got, and she's going to pass away. Do we go or do I send them? And my youngest was sitting there, but he said the same. He said to send them. So I put the question to him to say, what should I do in this situation as a man? As a man, what's the right thing for me to do? And he said, yeah, save the girl. I said, so if it saves one girl,
That's amazing.
Yeah, and I think 5 million people watched the video when I last got arrested. The world's media, even yourself now sitting here, you're going to sit and talk about the case. The case is about a generation of young English girls have been kidnapped and taken as sexual slaves by Muslim migrants into our country. They are being tortured, abused. When you read what's happening to these children, this is not just about sexual gratification for men. This is about destroying those kids. Yeah. That's what they're doing. So, yeah, I think that the more people need to...
Which is actually, it's what you would consider normally, under normal political circumstances, to be a leftist feminist position, Like, they would want to take care of women. They believe that, you know, rape is about power, and this should be an issue that, like, feminists in the West should care about, but they're not.
No, the feminists in the West want to all wear hijabs for a day.
Yeah.
And they want to subjugate women. It's become, this is where we're at. It's become, most of my views, people would say, they say you're far right. I'm completely liberal.
Right.
The reason I oppose Islam and the problems from Islam is because of my liberal views.
Right.
It's because of my views on women. It's because of my views on homosexuals. It's because it's all of the issues I have. My views on free speech. All of the reasons I oppose Islam is because of those views. And unfortunately, so many people now are waking up to it. But it's not really the mainstream media. We have a massive class issue in this country as well. All of the journalists, majority, are middle class, and they look down their noses upon us if we're from poor backgrounds.
Right.
And it's like our daughters don't matter. That's what we keep saying to the journalists. Whose daughters do you think these are? Who? I've met so many families over the years who've lost their daughters.
Right.
And this is so widespread across our country. It's a tip of the iceberg what they're touching on it.
Horrible. So I don't want to keep you super long because there's still people waiting to talk to you. But how can people support you if God forbid something goes wrong tomorrow? What can people do? Because you have supporters all over the world. What can people who aren't necessarily in England, unable to rally outside the courthouse, what can they do to help?
I'd say, so if I'm put in prison tomorrow, then I already know from the legal discussions that this is going to then go back to the High Court. Because again, they haven't followed procedure. They still have, tomorrow, the judge is the prosecutor. There's no prosecutor. The judge has added charges. There's no jury. I'm not allowed a jury. I can face 2 years in prison, and there's no jury, and the judge is the prosecutor. Where the government should have got a prosecutor, and the judge should be there judging and making this decision. He's not made that decision, which is against the guidelines. So we will have an appeal. So I'd say that Ezra has been a godsend through all of this for me on the legal side. He deals with it all. He deals with the lawyers. They have tried. Even the last time I went to court, I still question whether I'll go to court tomorrow and they'll put it back again. Yeah. Because they know that every time you turn up at court, it costs tens of thousands of pounds for the top legal teams. So yeah, I'll just say if people want to support me, then Ezra will be running a campaign to free me. There will be campaigns. But if anyone wants to raise awareness of this, if you wanted to support me, just share the stories. Share the stories and understand that British children and British girls are being taken, literally taken from their families. The government, social services, all of them have known it's happened. Our daughters have been sacrificed for diversity, sacrificed at the altar of multiculturalism. And as soon as we talk about it, we're deemed far right or extremist. And all we want is safety for our children.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. And you know, you're probably going to get a more hostile time tomorrow than me, because the mainstream media will want to crucify you.
I'm ready.
Yeah, good girl. Because you're coming and reporting, they won't like it. You see what they've done with Ezra last time. They're trying to get him locked up. Yeah. Well, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.